Have you ever said something truly shocking? A name that wasn't your partner's? A secret you swore to keep? Or a cynical truth that slipped out in the middle of a polite conversation? You laughed it off, maybe mumbled, "Oops, just a slip of the tongue." You called it a mistake, an accident, a mental lapse. But what if that mistake was the single most truthful thing you've said all week? Sigmund Freud, the meticulous architect of the unconscious mind, spent decades documenting these seemingly trivial errors. He called them Parapraxes, but we know them as Freudian Slips. Freud's terrifying conclusion was simple. There are no accidents in the human mind. Every forgotten name, every misspoken word, every misplaced object, and every misinterpreted sound is a clandestine message from the most volatile, repressed part of your psyche. This is not a theory about casual memory failure. This is about the unfiltered scream of your deepest desires, your hidden hostilities, and the darkest truths you are fighting every day to keep buried. We live in the ego's illusion, the belief that our conscious mind is the supreme commander. But the Freudian slip is the moment the unconscious mind violently proves that illusion is a lie. It is the moment the deepest psychological pressure finds the weakest point in your self-control and erupts. We are diving deep into the science of the verbal blunder, exposing the very mechanism of repression and showing how your most unintentional words are actually the most honest statement you can make. If you believe you are fully in control of what you say, prepare to have your own words betray that illusion.
To truly understand the power of the slip, we must return to Freud's structural model of the mind: the id, the ego, and the superego. The slip occurs because the psychic balance is under siege. The ego, your conscious self, and the gatekeeper of reality, is constantly fighting a two-front war. Its job is to ensure the raw, brutal demands of the id, the pleasure-seeking core, never violate the moral standards of the superego, the internalized judge. The key concept here is repression. When an impulse, a sexual fantasy, a moment of profound resentment, a dangerous truth, violates the superego, the ego shoves it back into the unconscious. But Freud proved that repressed thoughts do not simply vanish. They maintain their full, explosive, energetic charge. The Freudian slip is the moment this mechanism fails. It is a lapse in ego control, a moment when the psychic energy of that repressed thought is so immense that it finds an immediate, involuntary pathway around the ego's defenses. It's a spontaneous short circuit. The slip itself is a disguised compromise between the forbidden impulse and the pressure to keep it hidden. The ego, exhausted by stress, guilt, or distraction, can no longer hold the lid down, and the steam of the repressed thought finds the weak point in the wall, erupting as a mistake. The severity of the slip is directly proportional to the emotional charge of the underlying repressed conflict.
What volatile energy fuels these self-betrayals? The source is always the id and its two primal warring drives: Eros, life instinct, and Thanatos, death instinct. Every slip is either a frustrated expression of desire or a disguised act of aggression. Eros, the architect of desire. When a slip is driven by Eros, it exposes a repressed desire, often sexual or attachment-related. Accidentally saying, "I wish I could marry my boss," instead of "I wish I could meet my boss," reveals the powerful yet forbidden libidinal energy focused on that person. The slip is the libido's temporary victory over social propriety. Thanatos, the whisper of hostility. This is the darkest source. Thanatos is the instinct toward aggression, destruction, and a return to a tension-free state. This energy fuels hidden hostility. The seemingly polite person who mistakenly says, "I wish you were dead," instead of "I wish you were here," is letting the raw, aggressive energy of Thanatos find a momentary outlet against the conscious intention. This is the slip as an act of psychic sabotage, confirming the existence of deep-seated contempt, envy, or unresolved anger that the ego is desperately trying to suppress. The darker the slip, the more powerful the Thanatos impulse at work.
The most common and most embarrassing slips are those that involve communication, where the unconscious literally hijacks your means of expression. Lapsus linguae, slips of the tongue, these are semantic substitutions, not phonetic mix-ups. The impulse to denounce, to criticize, and perhaps to sabotage an event, superego conflict, has been repressed, but the destructive wish remains active. The slip is a momentary breach of politeness, the unconscious hostility overriding the conscious intention to be cordial. Example: a politician praising their rival and mistakenly saying they are pleased to denounce their efforts instead of announce. The truth is revealed. Their unconscious mind truly wants to denounce the rival. Lapsus calami, slips of the pen or keyboard. These are even more revealing because the act of writing gives the ego more time to monitor, yet the error still occurs. This confirms the intensity of the repressed thought. Example: accidentally writing, "I wish I could fire you," instead of "I wish I could find you" in a professional email, reveals a powerful underlying professional hostility or anxiety that the writer is actively trying to suppress. The written slip leaves a permanent, undeniable record of the unconscious intent.
The unconscious doesn't just hijack your words, it hijacks your behavior. This category encompasses all forms of accidental action that are, in fact, goal-directed behaviors driven by repression. Motivated forgetting, memory slips. Forgetting names, appointments, or crucial facts is rarely just bad memory. It is psychic censorship. The ego attempts to serve the ID's desire to erase or deny a painful, offensive, or anxiety-inducing reality. You forget the name of a person you deeply resent. You forget an important meeting that you subconsciously wish would never happen. The forgotten piece is a map pointing directly to a repressed emotional conflict. Misplacing objects, action slips. Why do you repeatedly lose your keys, your wallet, or a gift from a loved one? The lost object is symbolically linked to a repressed emotion or a wish. Losing a wedding ring might represent a subconscious wish to be free of the marriage. The accidental misplacement is actually an active, goal-directed behavior orchestrated by the deeper layers of the psyche to relieve itself of an emotional weight connected to that object. The shame and fear that follow a slip are the direct punitive actions of the superego. The slip betrays the core value system the individual is fighting to uphold.
This administration will not
The shame
back
of the
down from
ego
fight.
ideal.
We will protect our
The
borders.
superego
We will
enforces
restore
the
order.
ego ideal, the perfect, unattainable image of the self. When a slip exposes a dark thought, envy, malice, or selfishness, it reveals the terrifying gap between the idealized self and the actual, imperfect self that harbors such unwelcome truths. The intense shame is the superego's brutal punishment for this exposure. Projection and denial. When the ego is overwhelmed by a slip, it often immediately deploys toxic defense mechanisms. The ego might quickly blame the other person for mishearing or insist that the slip was merely fatigue. This denial attempts to instantly rebuild the collapsed facade, but it only reinforces the repression. The slip is an unwelcome reflection of the shadow content that the individual is consciously refusing to integrate.
The most psychologically loaded slips often occur in the context of intimate relationships, revealing unresolved conflicts rooted in childhood. The Freudian slip can reveal transference, where an individual unconsciously projects emotional dynamics from a past figure, often a parent, onto a current partner or figure of authority. Example: accidentally calling your partner by your mother's name or your boss by your father's name is rarely random. It signals that you are unconsciously experiencing the person not as they are, but as the ghost of the unresolved parental figure, the Oedipal echo. Your ego, under stress, resorts to the oldest, most familiar relationship script it knows. The slip as testing. Slips can also be an unconscious test. In therapy, if a patient makes a slip revealing hostility towards the analyst, it can be an unconscious attempt to test the limits of the relationship, to see if the analyst will retaliate or reject them, much like an anxious child tests a parent's patience. The slip cuts through layers of conscious conversation and gets straight to the core emotional dynamic.
The Freudian slip is not random. It is a goal-directed behavior that occurs with terrifying reliability, forming a clear pattern, a roadmap of your unresolved conflicts. The person who insists it was just an accident is the person most deeply invested in self-deception. They are actively denying the pattern of evidence their own unconscious mind is providing. Pattern mapping. The pattern is formed by the consistent theme of the slips. If all your verbal slips involve themes of money and ruin, your repressed conflict is financial anxiety and inadequacy. If all your action slips involve losing gifts or breaking objects from a specific person, the repressed conflict is clear hostility towards that individual. The ego's resistance. The slips occur precisely when the repressed pressure is highest and the ego is struggling to maintain a facade. The stronger the conscious denial, the more frequent and intense the slips become. The Freudian slip is proof that you cannot successfully lie to yourself forever. The truth will always find a crack, a fissure, a moment of weakness to escape and reveal the drama being played out beneath the surface.
The choice is now yours. You can continue to treat your slips as embarrassing mistakes, or you can begin to treat them as the most honest communication you receive all day. The unconscious mind is not malevolent. It is simply honest. It demands that the ego deal with the full, messy reality of your desires, your fears, and your hostilities. The conscious person does not eliminate the slip. They simply listen to it. The 3-step challenge to integrate your slips. Stop the cover-up. The moment you make a slip, verbal, writing, or action, pause. Do not immediately laugh it off, apologize, or rationalize. The immediate aftermath of a slip is the moment of greatest truth and the ego's highest vulnerability. Ask the key question. Analyze. In the following moments, retreat and ask your conscious self, if that mistake were absolutely true, what repressed thought would it reveal? Who was I really thinking of? What did I really wish for? Acknowledging, do not act. Integrate. Acknowledging the repressed thought, for example, I resent this person or I am secretly attracted to that, does not obligate you to act on it. It simply relieves the pressure on the ego and allows you to deal with the truth consciously and constructively. By draining the energy from the repressed thought, you reduce the need for the slip to occur again. By mastering your slips, you are mastering the hidden architecture of your own mind. You are forcing the unconscious out of the shadows and into the light of awareness, the first step towards reclaiming your power. If this analysis of the Freudian slip has made you question your last oops moment, share your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe to Your Surreal to continue the journey into the uncharted depths of the psyche.